Greetings and welcome everyone to Sacred Odyssey Videocast.
I love that title, Terry. I love that title.
I just want to thank everyone for joining us today. And if you've come back again for episode 2, I want to just do a little recap on what we done last week. But first of all, I'm Terry Hayes.
I'm Scotty Hilton.
And we are from the beautiful land of East Tennessee.
I like to tell people, Terry, I'm from the foothills of the Great Smoky Mountains of East Tennessee.
And I am down on the foothills of the foothills. Down toward the end of the Appalachian chain. It ends down in Georgia, and that's just a few miles from where I live. So we're
come a big rain and washed you all down there, right?
Yeah, you just washed us away. We hung on to the mountains, though we didn't.
Yeah.
I love the mountains of East Tennessee. It's beautiful. If you've never come to East Tennessee, come and visit the Great Smoky Mountains.
Yeah. And look us up when you come. So, Terry, I didn't mean to pull you off of topic there. I kindly pulled you off.
I don't care. I'm talking about my home state of Tennessee.
Yeah.
All righty. A little bit of a recap from last week. Our last episode was our introductory episode, and we went through our about. So if you got a chance, go over to the about on our YouTube channel, and you can kind of see a little bit of the direction we're going to go or be going and what we're going to be doing. But our big thing is our philosophy. It's really, as you get to watching our videos, this is going to come out more and more and more, and you'll understand it, and it'll help you understand it as you watch our videos. But it's our philosophy of walking with God is not a religion, it's a reality. I love it. I'm not going to, you want to know more about it, watch episode 1 if you haven't.
Yeah. I love that. I love that position. Walking with God is not a religion, it's a reality. And if you think about that, sometimes, many times, oftentimes, religion has a position of beating you into a walk, but having the knowledge and the fullness and the knowing of God, everything looks different. It's just a walk. Everything looks different. So
it's a walk, and we're going to be getting into what it means to walk with God as well. Matter of fact, I mean, it's part of what we're going to be covering today. It's in the text, but I don't know if we'll get that far today. But it's in line with our agenda, and again, it's going to help understand what our philosophy is all about. Walking with God is not a religion. It's a reality.
A reality.
Really quick, our objectives, who we are, or what we're doing. Through teaching and textual exploration, we aspire to help educate and arouse the desire for study, and you're going to get a taste of that today. B, to help others discover humanity's ancient, God-given birthright, an incorporated set of behavioral guidelines, not a religion. And to help those who are generally seeking their Creator by listening and answering their questions. And that's just a recap. Now, I want to kick this over to Scotty so we can get started on our topic today. He's going to introduce us.
I think we got a great topic today. We had a text message from a pastoral friend of mine, Terry, and I really think we need to cover this because it's I think it's a question that a lot of people have, and they really don't have a fullness of answer. The question was, he oftentimes hears us talk about righteous of the nations, and his question was, what are you talking about being the righteous of the nations? And I just think to add to that, what does it mean to be righteous? What is righteous? How does that affect the people to be the righteous of the nations? Now, before we get started in this, Terry, I want to say that I always have this where I want to talk to people and interview people. And I have asked many pastors, evangelists, even everybody that I meet, I said, what do you think the word righteous means? Some people gave answers, well, to be free from sin, or, to know God. And a lot of them didn't have an answer, Terry. Their position where they've grown up never gave them, they knew the title, but they don't know what the title means. And so, Terry, I want to bring you this question today. However you want to start addressing this, what does it mean to be righteous? How do you want to present this today? What's your avenue to go for this?
Well, this is a very good question. And it's a question that can become very deep. So we don't want to get too deep where the average person can lose out in terminologies and ideology.
Right. We want to bring them with us.
We want to stay, and in Hebrew it's called pashat, the basic simple meaning.
Say that one more time, Terry. I want everybody to get
it. In Hebrew, there's a Hebrew hermeneutics. If you're a pastor, you've heard the word hermeneutics. You've studied hermeneutics, and that's how you study Scripture. Yes. Well, Hebrew has its own form of hermeneutics that goes back thousands and thousands of years. And the first level is called pashat, which basically means the plain, simple meaning. In the pashat, whatever the plain, simple meaning of a word is, it cannot be changed. It can be built upon, but it will be its base. It's its foundation. Go ahead.
So Terry, let me just ask you now, what you're talking about is, even though people can add to the definition according to times, if I'm understanding it correctly, there is a root somewhere, and you're not going to really understand the word or the terminology until you go all the way back using proper hermeneutics to find the root word and build upon that. Is that what you just said?
That's correct. As we grow in our languages, again, translation is a very difficult issue, especially when you're dealing with Hebrew, because of with any language. I'm going to be honest with you. When you translate any language, whether it's Hebrew or Japanese, there's a loss. You lose. And it's best, if you want to understand a language, go back to the people who was born in that language, speaks that language, it's their first language. They study that language, and then they learn other languages. And when you have that, regardless of what language it is, it's more of a pure understanding. So, and go ahead.
No, go ahead. You was about to say something, Terry. Something just excited me. I decided to bring it out.
That's Scotty, that's where we're going. That's what we do. We go back to the people where the language is pure.
I'm going to give you a great position of that. I am from the mountains of East Tennessee, and it's often been said that people of the mountains of East Tennessee have our own language, and we use phrases and words that a lot of people don't understand. They might think they understand them, but I'll never forget, I met a man from New York City one time, and my wife and I used to travel all the time, and we were sitting in this fine dining area, where they don't use ketchup. I couldn't believe I was in a restaurant that didn't use ketchup. I mean, I thought everybody used ketchup. Anyway, this man heard me talking and come over and said, "Excuse me, sir, would you mind if I sat with you for a while?" And I said, "Okay, have a seat." I said, what can I do for you? He said, "I just want to hear you talk, and then you tell me about the words you've been using." So I mean, we're relatively in the same United States, but the language is different. And so once I told him what some of the words mean, several months later, we was back in the same area, and I ran into this gentleman, and he started using those words to me. I mean, he went back. He didn't know what they meant until he asked somebody who was raised there and knew the terminologies to understand what I was talking about. And that might be an off-beaten path, the way to bring it out, but that's what my mountain mind tells me. is there's a lot of words that we use that most people call it slang, but it's really that's how we talk. That's how we
Right.
talk. And
It's just like last year, my wife bought me a birthday gift. I got to go see Fluffy. Gabriel Iglesias, the Mexican comedian, love him. My wife goes, I don't know where our seats. I said, I'm not going to watch him.
did we just give him a plug? Did we just?
I just gave him a plug.
We just gave him a plug.
I love him. I love him. He's hilarious. He's hilarious. I support my Mexican brother. Go see him. He's really good. But he came to Chattanooga, Tennessee, and my wife got us tickets for as a birthday gift because she knows I wanted to go see him. I didn't even think I'd ever get a ticket. I didn't even try. She snuck and done it. So this tour, he was
snuck. That's one of those words. Snuck.
Yeah,
go ahead.
He was kicking off a new tour this last year of being more of an impromptu. And so he says, any of our videos that you've seen, you're not going to see that tonight. So he gets to talking about going around Chattanooga and talking to people and, meeting Southerners. And he goes, oh, and I'm not going to go into what he said, but I'm just giving you an example of language. He goes, oh, I thought this was the most nicest place in the world. Everybody was telling me, bless your heart. Go to your Southern dictionary and look that one up. I won't put that on video, but you'll understand the language.
Yeah.
So back on topic.
Well, can I bring out one more thing, Gary? Not only do we need to go back to the root word, the reason we need to do that is because let's take the English language. What we speak today, 100 years ago, 50 years ago, we wouldn't have been able to understand them because the English language, just ours, words mean different today. And I can give you a couple of words, but I don't want anybody to think I'm presenting some bad words here. But languages have changed. There's some of the teenagers today, I can't understand a word they're saying because I come up under a different language period of time. But in order to find the root meaning of a word, let's say used in the first century, I have to leave 21st century theology. Did that make sense? You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
So I have to not read it through the filter of today. I have to travel back in time to see what proper hermeneutics is. Who was the author? What was the author's intent? And what did the word means? Okay, I'm sorry, Terry. Righteous is
a really good point because right behind me on my screen we have a Torah scroll. This Torah scroll was transmitted from God to Moses, and Moses put it to pen, and they had been copying it word for word. There's a special process. It's a very holy process. Not one letter, not even a part of a letter can be different. Not even the spacing between words can be different. Has been transmitted for almost 3,400 years. And so when we're talking about the word righteous today in 2020, to know what it means, we've got to go back 3,400 years. And then and to be able to understand that, like I said before, we tap into Torah scholars and students and people who was born into the language where it's their first language, where English could be second, third, or fourth language down. And we tap into these people to know what this says. We can't even take an English person who doesn't know Hebrew,
right,
and look at that they lived 100 years ago and read their commentary on a verse in the Old Testament, and yet they don't know Hebrew. We can't trust that commentary because they haven't gone all the way back.
Right.
That's just what I'm saying. I'm not saying that in a bad way. These are the people, the kinds of people we are tapped into. And if we find a word, we're like, matter of fact, we were just talking before we got on today about something. And I got a passage here we're going to be talking about today. I've read it hundreds of times over the last probably 5 or 6 years. and I noticed a word, and I'm like, now wait a minute here. We haven't seen that before. So I got a friend of mine in New Jersey. His first language is Hebrew. He was born just outside of Jerusalem. So I will be contacting him and going, all righty, I need to pick your brain.
Yeah.
And that's what we do.
I want to give a disclaimer before we get into this,
okay,
this
go ahead.
position of righteous. I want to tell everybody that if you're listening and you're trying to harbor into or hold on to the 21st century thinking of text, your foundation may be a little shaken, but don't turn loose. Hold on and listen to the full episode, even the next couple of episodes, and you will find the foundational meaning of what we're going to study today. It's going to take more than just one episode. So go ahead, Terry.
As our foundation that walking with God is not a religion, but a reality, we're going to be looking into the reality of words used 3,400 years ago and earlier. This is just when they were pinned down as Moses was a scribe, God's scribe. They're not from religion. Religion has changed the meanings of a lot of words.
Yeah.
They have changed the religion. People believe in certain things based on religion, but not what the pure language actually is saying.
Yeah.
And so that's just like Scotty says, hang on, because I was associate pastor, Scotty was evangelist in the past, and you just got to hang on because we're going to be learning things we've never heard before, and it's going to challenge our religion.
Exactly.
And it's going to challenge our religion, but it should not challenge our walk with God. It should strengthen our walk with God.
You know, Terry, people that are hungry ask questions. People that are hungry want to know what is in the recipe. How did I get where I am today? Now, the people that's not hungry, you're probably going to turn us off in a few minutes, but I guarantee you, if you get a taste of the seasoning that's about to come forth, it will open up a new avenue for you that you will just be full of joy and peace. Terry, go. I'm about to preach, Terry.
We're going to jump in because we're going to run out of time here. So
yeah, go ahead, Terry.
We're going to run out. We got an introductory to the introductory. All right, here we go. All right.
Now, if you want me to share,
the question is on righteous. What is righteous, right?
Yeah, the way he presented it, he said, I've heard y'all talking about righteous of the nations. What does it mean to be righteous of the nations? And I figured the way we can address that is first talk, what does the word righteous mean? Terry?
All right. I'm not going to jump straight into the word righteous because there's a little bit that leads up to that to help understand that. Okay, the first place, there is a principle in Torah, Hebrew hermeneutics. The first place where a word is used in the scripture, its meaning is its base, and you can build on it, but whatever you build on it cannot change the base.
Right.
So if your understanding of a particular word is different from the base, then I think I would see what the base is.
Yes.
So that you can be lined up with the base meaning. The first place the word righteous is used in the Hebrew scriptures is in Genesis chapter 6 and in verse 9.
Do you want me to do a share screen on that, Terry?
Yeah, if you want to.
Okay.
I'm going to be reading from the Art Scroll translation, but I'll read what's on the top up here. Let's see here.
Genesis, which one now?
Oh, you're in. We want to go to Genesis chapter 6.
Chapter 6, verse 9.
Verse 9.
This one right here.
Yeah, go ahead and highlight that right there.
Okay.
Okay, in this is a JPS translation. It says, these are the generations of Noah. Noah was, hold on here, let me move. Got to move our little picture. I'm covered. There we go. It says, Noah was in his generations a man righteous. And I'll talk about that here in a little bit. And wholehearted. Noah walked with God. In the Art Scroll, I'm going to read it from the Art Scroll translation.
You want me to share that? You just want to
you can just leave that up so we can go right.
Okay.
The Hebrew's the same.
Okay.
Hebrew's identical. So I just want to read the English translation. For those not familiar with Art Scroll is probably the most or the largest English translation for English-speaking Jews. And it's a good translation. Not all translations, even Art Scroll will say theirs has flaws in it because English, it's hard to translate English into Hebrew into English. But anyhow, I'm going to read this and show you a little bit. It basically says the same thing, but uses a different word. It says, these are the offspring of Noah. Noah, a righteous man. Perfect was he in all his generations, and he walked with God. We're going to break this chapter down, this verse down, but we're not going to do it all in one setting. So we're just going to take a bite at a time. So you eat a whole cake is one bite at a time.
Yes.
Okay. Where I want to go to first, on verse 9 there.
Yes.
In the Hebrew, highlight the first two words.
This right here?
Yes. Elah, and my Hebrew is more often Ashkenaz. There's the dialects Ashkenaz Sephardi.
And that's just pronunciation, correct?
It's pronunciation dialect. My Hebrew teacher was a Hungarian rabbi. His ancestry was Hungarian, so he taught me Ashkenaz, which is the Jews from Europe speaks the Ashkenaz, and the Jews of Spain and the Middle East, Mediterranean speaks Sephardi. So it's comfortable for me to use the Ashkenaz.
Okay.
Which is
and now it doesn't change the meaning of what you're about to read. It's just
doesn't change the meaning. It's just a pronunciation. It's just like how people talk different up north than they do down from the south.
Yes. Okay. Sorry, Terry.
And we can use the same words. I mean, in New Hampshire they park the car, and we down here we park the car. And so really that's about what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Good example, Terry.
Just it may not be exactly, but hey, y'all understand.
Yes. Yes.
The first two words, Elah, Toiledos. Toiledos, the second word. It says here in my commentary on this word, it's translated into the English in various different ways. It's translated in this, in the Art Scroll, offspring. It's going to be used as generations, descendants, products, or history. Those are English words that one word can be translated based on the use of the word in the sentence.
Okay. And pronounce that word again, Terry, if you don't mind.
Toiledos or toiledot.
Okay.
And the oi is my Ashkenazi coming in there. Hold on here. I've got my books. Everybody that knows me, I did a home Bible study for almost 4 years, and everybody there, you see me, I'd have a stack of books beside my chair every day. I had to have my books. What we're going to look at is two really quick. You don't have to pull these up, but I'm going to read these in to give you an example. This same word.
You want me to continue to screen share, Terry?
If you want to, go to Genesis chapter 2 and verse 4.
Okay. Genesis chapter 2 and verse 4. English side is here.
Yes. Well, just do the first through. These are the generations. I'm talking about in English. These are the generations.
Oh, okay.
We're going to go there. These are the generations of heaven and earth. Okay. In the Hebrew, now I'll go back to the Hebrew and highlight the first two words. These are the exact two words. Exact two words we find in Genesis chapter 6, verse 9.
Oh, it is.
In Genesis, in chapter 6, it says offspring. These are the offspring. Here it says these are the generations.
But it's the exact same words.
Right.
In Hebrew.
Yes. Now in the art scroll, they use, listen to this, these are the products of heaven. They use the word, remember I said products?
Yes.
History, offspring. This word can be, it depends on how it's used. And in the scripture. In chapter 5, verse 1.
You wish me to go there, Terry?
Yeah, go real quick right there.
Chapter 5, verse 1.
Make sure I'm right. Yeah, say, okay. This translation is, this is the book of the generations of Adam. Okay, in the Art Scroll, it says this is the account of the descendants of Adam. So the word toledos here, we've already seen it's been used as offspring, it's been used as generation, it's been used as product, and now it's being used as descendants.
Okay.
Okay. So what we are seeing here. Let's go back to Genesis chapter 6, verse 9. And what is really, really interesting, the ancient Torah scholars have told us this right here. These are the offspring of Noah. This isn't talking about his sons. It says these are the offspring of Noah. He was a righteous man, perfect, and he walked with God. And the sages teaches us that a man's character, his deeds, his acts are his children, his first children, before his fleshly children.
So, Jared, I know you're concentrating there, and I don't want to jump in here. So, but what you're saying is the offspring. Is part of that is his righteousness? Is that what you're talking about?
The first on the list of his offspring, his firstborn, is his righteousness.
That is that is powerful. You know, I've often heard the terminology that a man is known by his offspring or his children, you know, and so this is what comes out of him.
Isn't man known by his deeds, his acts?
Yes. Terry, that is powerful.
So let's see here. Like I said, I got my books. One of my favorite sages is Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch. He lived about 100 years ago in the 1800s. I really like his teachings because in his commentaries, if you don't mind, I'll just show you a little bit here.
Torah scholar, give us his name again in case anybody wants to look this up, Terry.
Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch, Hirsch. He lived in the 1800s.
And real quick, Terry, if somebody wants to add that to their library, is that a 5-book? Is that a 5-book on the Torah?
Yeah, this is a commentary, his commentary on the Torah, or the 5 books. This one happens to be Genesis, right here.
Can I throw something in right here real quick, Terry? If anybody would like to get a link or find out how you could obtain these books, we're going to be sharing a lot of different commentary from Torah scholars. If you would like to just email us, just apply this video and get a hold of us somehow, and we will send you a link of a way that you may be able to purchase these commentaries. Go ahead, Terry. I didn't mean to jump in.
That's fine. One of the things I have loved about when I've started using a lot of Rabbi Hirsch's materials, and I've got several commentaries.
You want me to continue to screen share, Terry?
Not this second, but you'll probably pull this back up here in a minute.
Okay.
Now this is back to full screen. This will help the visual also.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah,
this my commentary. This is on Genesis, and if you go to Art Scroll, I've got the one on Genesis. It's 2 volumes, which is about 4,000 pages, and over 2,000 years of commentary from the Torah sages is in there.
Terry, I put you on speaker view on my end on recording end. Can you please, I don't mean to jump in, can you show that book one more time now that you're full screen, not just part of a screen, full screen? Oh, that's great. Fit you right.
And your hold on here. Since we're sharing.
Yes. Let's let them know how they can obtain this great vast amount of wealth and knowledge.
This is only. Hold on, let me put my dust cover back on. It came loose. This is only one of two. I got 2 volumes for Genesis. That's the Hebrew word for Genesis. As a matter of fact, the Ashkenaz, the Bereishis, which is translated in the beginning. And I have, it's a 2-volume set of almost 2,000 pages per volume. Almost verse for verse study. It's got some really, really good stuff in there.
It does.
From the Torah scholars of past, the sages of Israel.
The people that know the language.
That know that and live and speak, breathe, pray the Hebrew language. And when we're talking about the language, let me get this straight too, because there is a common street Hebrew today, which is not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is called biblical Hebrew. It's called Lashon Kodesh. It's the holy tongue. It's how the Hebrew in this Torah scroll is spoken and prayed to. When the Jews pray, they use the language of this scroll that's behind us. And so, and it's interesting, no matter where you're at in the country, the world, you can go to Portugal, they're praying in biblical Hebrew. You go to Canada, they're praying in biblical Hebrew. And it might be a dialect of either Sephardic or Hebrew, depends on the where the nationality of where the Jews are exiled to, whether it's Spain or Russia or wherever they may live at. But anyhow,
I can't pass these nuggets up as they come, Terry, and I know we're running way over time. We haven't got into the depth of what you presented yet, but I have to say this right here. In the Western world, there's a lot of books that say the same thing, but they're nowhere the same. Different interpolations, different revised, different versions. But what you just said was, if you go anywhere in the world and pull out one of these scrolls and you begin to read it, this Hebrew is going to be identical.
Yes, this is there is no versions. There's only one, and it came from the Creator to Moses, and Moses has passed it down. There's a chain how this has been passed down. It's in what's called Pirkei Avot. Talks about the chain, which Pirkei Avot is called the ethics of the fathers. But there is a chain that goes all the way back to Mount Sinai.
That's
this
awesome.
Torah scroll is a chain that goes back to Mount Sinai.
If we get a question on that, we'll have to cover that in a future episode. But right now we're heading for righteousness.
Right now we're heading for righteousness. And what I wanted to share with you, the reason why we did not sidetrack on the word offspring or toledos. We did not, because this is important, because this is what righteousness is. Righteousness is Noah's offspring. It's his product. It's his history. It's his descendants. I'm gonna preach. It's all of this. Everything that this word is translated is what righteous is to Noah.
And that's just powerful, Terry. That's powerful.
This is before it's talking about the offspring of his flesh. This is the offspring of Noah, who he was as a man. Because it says, Ela Toledos Noach ish Sadiq. He's a man of righteousness. The product of Noah. What came from him was righteousness.
That's so. Now, Terry, we've seen this flow, this product from him. What does the word righteous mean? Is that where you was going, or?
That's where I'm going, Scotty.
Okay.
We are given free will. We have a right to choose, and we can choose to let righteousness be our product, our offspring.
Terry, now you brought in another position here, and we're running out of time for this episode. So, but I need you brought in the position of free will. We're given free will, so we have the ability to
make a choice,
of righteous or unrighteous. Now, hold on, I got to ask you a question, Terry. I know you're dying to get into this, but you know I'm a man of many questions. So, free will. If I say, okay, Terry, I'm presenting this before you, and you can do it or not do it. That's free will. But if, let's say I pull out a weapon and I tell you, you're going to do what I tell you to do, or you're not going to be here anymore. Did I just remove your free will?
No, you've got the free will not to do what he says.
Okay, but did I introduce a position that may sway your free will? I mean, I know you got the will to do it.
Even if I choose to follow what you say, I still made a choice.
The choice is still in your ballpark.
The choice is still in your ballpark.
Is there anything that I could do to make you lose that ability of free will?
No, you can't take my free will away.
It's part of your genetic.
You might threaten my free will, and I might, for the sake of saving my life, which we are permitted to do, make the choice to do what you say. You still hadn't removed my free will. I still had a choice.
So in every position, you have a choice to do righteous or unrighteous.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, you have that choice, and to understand what you're saying, we got to go to this very next.
Okay.
What I was trying to say is what I love about Rabbi Hirsch is that when you get into his stuff, he takes the words of a sentence, breaks it down, studies the word, finds out where it's used over here, and to gain more understanding of what that word means, like what we did with the word that's translated as offspring. We've learned that now it can be product. We can do, so he does this all the time, and I love it because it's where my mind works. And like I've done a whole teaching on another passage in Genesis that for years I had a settled understanding of a certain passage, and it wasn't incorrect. It's a base teaching. But when he brought the study of the words and how it's used here and how it's used here and how it's used, and brought a more rounded use of it, it didn't change the meaning of that passage, but it gave it great depth and gave me an aha moment. And I'm like, and so this is kind of, I'm hoping this will happen for.
I'm right on the edge of my seat.
Okay, Rabbi Hirsch, he goes on, he says, Tzaddik, and understand too, the Torah scholars tell us that this is the only place in the Hebrew scriptures where God calls a man righteous. He doesn't say it about Abraham. He doesn't say it about the prophets. And see, I'll be honest with you, I just learned that one about 2 weeks ago.
Oh, mercy.
And I'm like, really? So this is not only the first, but the only place a man is called righteous in the Hebrew scriptures. It's not saying that no one's not righteous, but these are words from God. God told Moses, understand, God told Moses, write this down. God called Noah righteous. And we've got to understand, religion says some things, God says another. Which side do we take? And when God told Moses, that's one thing when I learned a long time ago, started becoming a student of Hebrew scripture. These are the words of God himself, the creator, when he spoke them to Moses.
I know you want to get into the Torah scholar Hirsch here, but I got to reiterate something you just said. Sometimes religion will tell us there's nobody that can hold that position. But here, you just read where Noah held that position in the eyes of God. Is that
God himself described him, not him.
That's okay, Terry. I'm going to try to lay back here And breathe this in. Go ahead. I'm going to try to put this in.
Here is, we're talking about, this is from a person who was born into the language, speaks the language, reads the language from its original source. And here's what he has to say about tzaddik, righteous, is one who gives everyone and everything their due. In this respect, tzaddik is related to Aramaic sadek, to satisfy, to give what is due. A tzaddik is objective toward everything he looks at, everything from the standpoint of his duty, not from the standpoint of his own personal interest. So righteous here is a duty. It's an action.
It's a deed.
It's a deed. Okay. And we read at the, I'm going to jump to the end of the verse where it says, and Noah walked with God. And the sages says what this means is he walked in the paths of God. And the paths of God is his guidelines.
So he didn't direct God. He walked with God.
Yeah, when God said, when he learned from Adam, all the way up through him, their behavioral guidelines that God gave man 2,000 years before Mount Sinai. Wait. And that's a whole different episode.
But you got to say that one more time. So what I'm understanding, you just said, but I want you to say it one more time, is that there were, how'd you pronounce that? Behavioral?
They're behavioral guidelines that the Creator gave mankind from Adam to Noah, and from Noah to you and I today. That's not changed. They're eternal. Everybody on the face of the earth is given these behavioral guidelines. Now, this is what Noah walked in. I'm not going to get into those behavioral guidelines. That's
a future thing. You're going to have to come back. You're going to have to come back.
Future stuff. But to understand what righteous means here is that God, in his conversation and walk with man in that first 2,000 years of man's history, God gave man behavioral guidelines to live by. And when they lived by them, they were righteous. They did what was right.
That's what I was going to ask you. So the deeds of Noah, his offspring, was his deeds.
What was his deeds? What his actions?
Good or bad, he was known for doing the good.
Was known. These behavioral guidelines is what God judged the earth by at the time of the flood. It says Noah was righteous in his generation, means there was no one else. See, before God brought the flood, he let Methuselah, who was a righteous man, he died. God let him die and pass before he brought the flood. So that left Noah. And Noah was following God in these guidelines. And when we look at why God brought the flood, it says that the earth was full of robbery and violence. The opposite of tzaddik, because in Hebrew we have the word tzedakah, which is translated righteous. What tzedakah is translated a lot of times as charity. And again, like in Aramaic, to satisfy, to give what is due. Charity means to give from yourself. Tzedakah means to do what God has said to do, like to take care of the poor. When we give to the poor and the needy and the homeless, we're giving, or help someone out, we're giving, whether it's in money or deed, we're giving tzedakah. We're satisfying what is due that God expected.
Taking a righteous position.
It's a righteous position.
Now, what about decisions that we make, like decisions in everyday life? Decisions of theft, decisions of
that's again, one of the behavioral guidelines is if it's not yours, leave it alone. God's given us everything. Matter of fact, in Genesis, we'll cover it. God says, I've given you everything. Well, if he's given us everything we need, there's nothing else. Why should we take from our neighbor?
So that's a position of righteous decision.
So when we decide that we've gone to the store and we bought a Coca-Cola and we handed them some money, a $5 or whatever, and they give us change back, and we're going through our change. Oh, mate, they gave us 50 cents too much. When we go back into the store and we return that 50 cents that's not ours back to its owner, we just did a righteous act.
Now,
and here's the beautiful thing. A wise person who says, oh, I don't want to steal, he's considered a wise person. Okay. But when we return something that's not ours, that we got by mistake or whatever, like we've given so much money, and we do it for the sake that God, our creator, doesn't want us to live like that. And we say, because God doesn't want me to do this, to keep this, it wasn't mine, I want to return it for his sake. You are righteous.
Terry, my mind is flowing with so many things here, but I need to see if I can add this to that. Not only does your deeds of righteous, the act of being righteous, affect you, and you took that 50 cents back and you gave it back, but the one you gave it back to was affected by your righteous.
Yes. That's how we spread righteousness in the world, is by acting correctly. And then when other people see it and they're like, it rubs off.
So my decision of being righteous, I have the free will to do it. My decision of doing righteous deeds not only affects me, but everybody around me.
Yeah.
That's powerful. That's powerful. To know that I have the ability to affect the people around me by just doing what God asked me to do.
And righteous is kindness. Just like when, especially down here in the South, what do we do when we go into the store? We'll hold the door open. We'll let whoever go through. Give them the opportunity to go through first. That's a righteous deed.
It's saying like, thank you. How can I help you?
Thank you. Thank you. Smiling at someone, saying good morning with a smile, and brightening their day. You've done a righteous deed. When you build on righteousness, it's acts of kindness. Righteous is act of kindness and acts of duty that our Creator wants us to live by. These are guidelines. They're not. A lot of people are like, oh, it's the law, the law, the law. No, these are guidelines, and they're beautiful.
Now, wait,
and you maybe want to just keep going.
We're running out of time, but we can't stop. We got to go just a few more minutes. We're running out of time.
We need to go 45. We'll go 45.
We don't went by that, Terry. We don't went past that, Terry. We don't went past that. I know you've been in a preaching mode, so you don't know. You don't have any aspect of time when you're in this position.
I know.
So I hear a lot of people saying, what God asked me to do is too hard. I don't know if you've heard people say that, but say it's the deeds that God asked me to do, they're just too hard. Isn't there a text that says it's not way off up there, or somebody has to go get it for you, or not across the sea, but it's right here in your mouth or in your heart that you can do it? Did God give us anything that was too hard to do?
No. And actually, in another video cast, we're going to be covering the products of righteousness that can actually help answer that. In the close of this video, and we're gonna pick right back up. We're not ending. We're just trying to keep our videos a little short so people can have time to watch.
There's so much information in this one, Terry. I challenge people to go back and listen to it a couple of times and make notes. Go ahead, Terry. Go ahead.
We want people to have time to listen to these, and sometimes, when they're an hour and 2 hours long, people don't get what's being said. I don't. And so, to help you out is not to just do you cliffhangers. We want you to have time to go through the material that we're given. So I just want to end on this note, that righteous, when we learn, it's the first places in Genesis 9, chapter 6. Noah is the first and only man called righteous by God in the Hebrew scriptures. Now, that doesn't mean that no one else wasn't righteous. This is where we learned this word from,
Yes.
and get its base from. We learned that Noah was righteous. Righteousness was a product, an offspring, history, and descendant of Noah, his life, from his life. It came before his children. He was righteous before he had physical children. So this offspring is not about his. He beget. It goes on, says, and he beget Shem, Ham, and Japheth. He begat them, but his true offspring was his righteousness. And his righteousness is that God gave some behavioral guidelines, and he walked in them. Matter of fact, when you look in chapter 6 and 7, toward the end of chapter 6 and the beginning of chapter 7, you'll see that Noah did everything that God commanded him to do. And we look at, oh yeah, it says he did this, 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 and this, when then Noah did what he did. But that was the nature of Noah, was to do what God said. That was his righteousness. And so, but being hard, if we look at righteous as being kind, as just to keep it simple in a person's mind, that a kind act, a right act, a very simple, what is the golden rule? Don't do unto someone that you don't want something done unto you. That's 100% righteous. And it becomes righteous, even strong righteousness, when we do it because this is God's desire for my life. If you do acts of righteousness because within mind that God wants you as a human being, his creation, to act like this, then you too are righteous. Right? That's what righteous of the nations means. Let's go back to that from the first part.
Yeah.
Righteous of the nations are those people who have chosen to do the behavioral guidelines that God gave man for the sake that God asked us to do them.
That's powerful. That's powerful, Terry. And what we're doing by going to the Torah scholars to seek out what these are is to strengthen our behavioral guidelines.
Right. And these behavioral guidelines is not a religion.
It's a walk.
They're a reality. They're life.
Noah walked with God.
They're life. You go to the grocery store and you help a little lady across the road. It's life, because that's who you are. It's a product of your life to help and do people and do things right. You return that which is lost, something that was given to you. You see your neighbor shoveling against the wall, and you need a shovel. You just don't go get it. You go get permission, and you don't keep it. You return it. These are products of your life.
I've got to throw, but this is so great. I got to throw a circumstance that happened to me, Terry. I remember one time I was dressed up in a 3-piece suit. I was fixing to go into a place and present the text. And the house that we had lunch at that day, we was waiting there, and they were having sewer trouble. And I was dressed up in my 3-piece suit, and I looked out the window of the kitchen, and there was the owner, the man of the house, out there having to dig up the septic tank by himself. And here I was sitting in there watching him. And before I knew it, I was out there with a shovel. And he said, "You don't have to come out here and do this." I said, "No, there's no way I can watch you through that window after you showing me hospitality and feeding me lunch and allowing me to be here at your house." He said, "But you don't have any other clothes." I said, "It doesn't matter. I would rather go to where I was going in a dirty suit and help you as to go clean suit and have something in my heart saying I should have helped him." And that changed that man's life. That until this day, that man never has forgotten that act of kindness. It was just a position of being righteous.
I mean, and there's even a story, an ancient story. There's a great rabbi that lived in the European or the Russian area over in the Russia area. what we would call Russia, back in the old days. But this was back like in the 1800s. Now, anybody that's ever studied anything about uh, uh, the Jewish life will know that Yom Kippur is the holiest day on the Jewish calendar. God
Yeah.
has commanded them to fast sun up to sundown, no food, no water. And these guys, they'll pray 3 times a day, and they keep going. I mean, it's a time of holiness before God that He's called the Jewish nation. You come to before me on that day. And there was this great rabbi in that time period who, on the day of Yom Kippur, was doing his prayers. And I'm probably, it's been a while since I've read this story, but anyhow, he either come to mind or the thought somehow come to his mind that there was a lady. I want to think it was either a woman that just gave birth or she was an elderly woman. One of the two. She was bedridden. The woman was bedridden, and it was a cold Russian winter, which we all have heard this.
Yeah.
Those red winters. It's the day of Yom Kippur. He takes off his talit, his prayer shawl, lays it down, and leaves the building. And the students and the congregation's like, "Where's the rabbi going? This is the holy. What's he doing?" So they follow him, and guess what they find him doing on the holiest day of the year that God commanded them to appear before him? He was chopping wood and building a fire so that woman wouldn't freeze to death. So on the holiest day of the year, the righteous act was to take care of your fellow human being.
That is. There's no words I can say to.
It's just like your story there. It's just our acts toward each other that lifts up our fellow human being, takes care of our fellow human being, make sure their needs are taken care of, clothing, food, and shelter, and leaving their products alone. What God's given them, He's given them, and what He's given me, He's given me. And we're treating each other with kindness. These are righteous acts, and we do this because God wants us to. This is how He wants His creation to live. It's His desire. This is righteous. This is righteousness.
That's what He created us to do. Terry, I hate to come to a close on this, but we're going to have to come to a close on this videocast time. And I would like to say that thank you for watching. Thank you for clicking on the link that we shared with you, or coming back to our YouTube channel and subscribing to our YouTube channel. And I'm going to ask that you click that notify button, that little bell on the side, so that you can be notified as we upload videos. And give us a like, give us a thumbs up. And I know we probably won't, everybody's not going to like us, Terry.
No.
But if 1 out of 1,000 gets touched, if 1 out of 1,000,000 gets touched by anything we say on these videocasts, it's worth it all. It's worth it all. Terry, you got anything else to add before we come to a close?
I just want to thank everyone for viewing our videocast, and hope that we've helped people look and learn. That's what we say. We're wanting to help teach textual things, what it says, what it means, regardless of what religion has told us. And that hopefully our hope is that humanity will get past, especially like what's going on in the world today, with going around the world, the things that's happening, that people would use the choice to walk with God.
Yes. Now, Terry, we're not through with righteous. We're not through with righteous of the nations. So everybody, please subscribe. You'll get notified the next time. We got quite a few episodes, quite a few videocasts. We've not even touched a little bit, as one of my grandparents said, we haven't touched a drop in a bucket to where this topic is going to take us.
No, we and also like what this video cast is a product from a question.
Yeah.
Not from what we wanted to just bring you, but from a question. So feel free to message us privately or leave us a message on the comment section in our videos. If you don't mind giving it publicly, but if you want to be anonymous, feel free to contact Scotty or myself and say, hey, I've got a question.
Yes.
And we will look at it, we will study it out, and we'll come back and we'll do a show.
Terry, it's been great. We're going to pick up where we left off today. So come back and join us. And Baruch Hashem. And we shall see you next time on Sacred Odyssey Videocast. Give us that full name, Terry, before we come to a close.
Sacred Audio Video. Oh, I got tongue-tied. Hold on. I gotta get some trusty Dr. Pepper here. Dr. Pepper in my Tennessee cup. But anyhow, Sacred Odyssey Videocast, an intelligent and spiritual quest.
Y'all come back.